I'm Manveen Rana. I'm Innovations Editor here at Hub Culture at Davos 2024, and I'm joined by Gold Hood from Fulco. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Gold, just give us a sense of what you've been doing at Davos, because I know you've got some very exciting projects on.
Yes, we do. We are here to talk about real scaled climate change adaptation and mitigation. And this is really about how we design our cities to be more livable, but how we do that in the time that's needed.
Because there is obviously a huge stopwatch on this. You know, there is a fear that we've got to meet deadlines very soon. So what are you suggesting? What are your sort of big ideas about how to do that?
Yes. So the World Economic Forum actually said in the last year that they think $2 trillion a year needs to be deployed into this space by 2026. In infrastructure terms, that's basically tomorrow. And the key challenge is actually that nobody knows how to spend the money. Sounds kind of weird, but actually there is quite a bit of capital, and that capital needs a place to go. And the real crux of that problem is that there isn't enough labor to put that money into to get the work done. If you think about traditional construction companies trying to augment a building, if we were going to make this building a lot warmer, a lot more livable, we would have to send out what? A team of engineers, site purveyors, people look at permitting. They might spend 6 months or a full year trying to figure out how to convert a single building. That's crazy. We can't afford to do that. So what Full is doing is utilizing advanced state-of-the-art artificial intelligence on the front end and the back end to compress the time frame by which we decide how to make change, and then controlling the full value chain from how financial capital is deployed all the way through how operators actually use it to make sure that the whole thing can be done in about a 30% ratio of the time.
That's amazing. So you will definitely intangible difference in terms of the time frame. And how soon will you be able to get this up and running?
Yeah, so we'll put out a full press conference later today, but we're going to be deploying a $10 billion vehicle in Sustainable Cities competition. And that's going to be an annualized vehicle as well. So we already have capital into this mechanism. We're going to be opening the application portal in April, and applications will be due for this in July. All cities and settlements are welcome to apply, and we define city as being a group that's capable of being self-sufficient. We want to build resilient communities. So if your community, with our help, could be fully self-sufficient, have everything you need, like food and energy and protection from the cold in this case, then that would qualify. Exactly. So that's a really, really fast turnaround, and then you'll start to see results immediately. By the time we're all back here next year, we'll be able to actually show you change in some of these communities, which is pretty incredible.
That's quite the promise. I mean, just give us a sense, by this time next year, what do you want to have already happened?
Yes. So by this time next year, we're looking to see some of the early change in these communities, whereby if you've ever watched, instead of a dystopian film, maybe one that's looking at a brighter future, really what we want. And one thing you may have noticed is an art style called solar punk. And this is where you might have seen buildings that have things like beautiful vertical walls that look like they're actually really integrated into the lifestyle. Turns out that actually has real scientific merit. Turns out that we can actually use nature and food as insulation that has real underlying economic value proposition. So that's probably one of the first things that you'll see is actually prettier cities that at the same time are more food secure and have better air quality. So it's nicer to walk around, it's nicer to breathe, and they're also quieter because it produces a sound dampening effect. So that's the kind of immediate change that you're likely to see within the first few months, because that's easier technology for us to deploy. And then we've got a lot of other partners that come into the mechanism. We'll also be able to share all kinds of exciting data, because the actual application portal for this competition is an AI engine. So you're actually telling us everything about your city, and then that AI will essentially negotiate with you what your city could look like if it was going to be transformed.
That's amazing. And the moment people can see that, there is pressure on politicians and stakeholders to make it happen.
There is, and we make it as easy as possible. Basically, there's no financial commitment from the city. The money that comes back into the competition vehicle, because it's actually for-profit capital that we're able to deploy, is repaid out of the savings we create, because there's real tangible savings produced by making buildings more efficient and by adding energy into the grid. But that means that cities have no monetary obligation when they convert into this mechanism, and we make it as easy as possible for them to apply by minimizing the amount of permit issuance that they need, or other types of permissions.
This sounds incredibly promising. I love the idea of prettier as well as healthier, more environmentally friendly cities. And I really hope you're right about them being achieved by next year. Please come back, speak to us at Davos 2025 and tell us the sort of progress you've made, and we won't hold you to account for anything that hasn't happened. Every city in the world isn't prettier. But thanks very much for joining us here, Gold Hood. I'm Manveen Rana.